So welcome. So my job is to welcome you, but also tell you a bit about the design process that we really want you to use. So this is the design lab. What we try to work on is, well, kind of projects like you're about to see. Because we treat design as a way of thinking and a way of solving really important problems. In fact, I've just come back from a month trip to Seattle, Dubai, Ahmedabad, and Bengaluru. In other words, United States, United Arab Emirates, and India. Looking at large projects that can actually change the world. Now, this is a project that won't change the world, but it might very well change UCSD because the trolley stop is, we believe, going to be the main entrance in many ways, especially from people from downtown and from other areas. And then they're going to enter the campus, and it's a long walk, actually, to the rest of the campus. So what is that walk going to be like? And what are the trolleys? The trolley is there, but what about transportation? It's too far for some people, especially if they're late. So we need something that we call micro-mobility, ways of getting people around the campus quickly. And the electric scooters and bikes are not necessarily the answer. In fact, scooters are kind of dangerous. Lots and lots of injuries are happening. So what should the solution be? So how are you going to go about approaching it? We're going to give you 2 days in April, a project that would normally take a normal planning group a year because it's a big, important, and difficult area. So what we're looking for is not a finished result, but exciting new ideas that probably some of us have never thought of. Because you understand what it's like to travel around this campus. It's a big campus, and worse than that, it's really hilly. And so it's easy to think about going from one place to another, but not when you are handicapped. And let me mention what I mean by handicapped. Handicapped is somebody who might have a permanent disability and therefore can't walk easily or carry things or see or hear. But there are other kinds of handicaps. One of them is temporary. I broke my leg or I broke my arm, and so I can't do everything I want to, but it'll be fixed someday. The other one, though, is situational. I broke my arm, I can't use it. I'm carrying a big package with my arm, so I can't use it. I'm carrying a baby, I'm carrying groceries, I'm carrying books, I'm carrying a backpack, I'm carrying, big poster boards. How do we manage that when you get off the trolley and then have to go maybe a mile up and down hills to the next location? So what we want you to do is think about how you might approach it and how it might affect you, because what we want is something we call human-centered design. So I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining that. But it's really simple. You put yourself in the shoes of the people that you are thinking of designing it for. And it's not what you think is a good idea. You want to build something that they will think is a good idea. And you have to think about all these characteristics of the people and what they might be doing. And remember, this is a big campus. There are 60,000 people who work here, including the students and the employees. But we also have lots and lots of visitors who don't know the campus and who might actually not be dressed for it, and who, that is, they might be dressed in formal clothes and they don't want to go huffing up hills, and they might be carrying lots of stuff. So how are we going to manage that? And we also have people of all ages. We have married students and married faculty, which means there are babies on campus, and animals. And we have old people, even older than me, who can't always walk easily and are confused about the campus. The signage is actually getting much better. The signs are now much better than they ever were, but as you probably, all of you have probably gotten lost on campus, even though you're here all the time. So here's the procedure. And then I want to tell you what we expect from results. Human-centered design has 4 simple principles. The first one is we focus on the people. So it's not about a clever technology or a clever process or a clever method. It's about the impact upon the people and all the people. So if you devise a scheme, say, to make it easy to go from here to there, well, if you take a look at the bikes that are rushing back and forth, the electric skateboards rushing back and forth, That may be great for the people on the bike or on the skateboard, but as pedestrians, it's really dangerous. You may have noticed, right? Skateboard is coming down the hill. It can't stop. And I've watched people fall off, and I've watched people fall off deliberately in order to avoid hitting somebody, but they could injure themselves. So when you say human-centered, it has to be all the people that are involved. Okay, that's the first requirement. Second is, don't solve the symptom, solve the underlying problem. So we have those 3 walkways going up the hill. How do I describe it? It's from the library up to Ridgeway, and it's got 3 different paths. One of them is for handicapped people, which goes all around, because in case you have a wheelchair. And the other one is for bicycles, which is pretty straight, and the other one is a whole bunch of stairs for people walking. Do you always follow that vision? No. How many people walk up the bicycle pathways? A lot. In fact, some of the official campus tours go up the bicycle pathway so they can stop and tell you about the singing trees and the stuff. But that's dangerous because bicycles coming down are coming down pretty fast. So when you build something like that, how can you build it so that actually the desired behavior takes place? Actually, I don't think I've ever seen anybody use the handicap trail because it winds and winds and winds around. Except when you go uphill, when I'm going from here to the faculty club, say, towards the end, I then cut across the handicap trail because people like shortcuts. There's this thing you can look for when you walk around the campus. We call it desire lines. Look for paths through the grass. Look for paths on the non-paved part of the place. When you see paths there, we call that a desire line. That means that's where people really want to go, as opposed to where the sidewalks were put and the walkways were put. And so who put the walkways there in ways that are not convenient for people? And so when you design, think about what's convenient for people. And people tend to, is it a surprise that people tend to like the shortest path between 2 points? And many of the walkways force you to go out of your way. And so if you take a look at the desire lines, you see people cut across. They don't go through the nice rectangular placements. Okay, focus on the people, solve the right problem. And the right problem in the 3 different pathways is, well, the problem was that people were crashing into each other, and it was not safe and dangerous, and it was not safe, and it was difficult for people in wheelchairs. And the bikes and the pedestrians were intermixed. So they made 3 different paths. But that solved the symptom. It didn't make it easy to, it didn't solve the separation problem because it's much easier for people to take the bike path, which sort of violates the whole principle. And so a lot of times we solve the symptom, but we have to step back and say, well, why is this happening? And then we say, but why is that? And we try to find out what the real underlying reason is. So that's the second principle, solve the right problem. Third principle is, it's a system. That when you solve one thing, you may actually cause some problem elsewhere because the transportation problem on campus is very complex. The buildings are all over the place. And if you're going back and forth to class or to meetings, you're often late because it takes your class let out a bit late, and actually the next class is 15 minutes away, 10 to 15 minutes away, and you only have 10 minutes between classes. Yeah. And the third, and actually it's just transportation isn't the only issue, right? There are other issues too. Where do you stop off to get something to eat? And what if you have to go to the toilet? There aren't very many public toilets available around here. And finally, invariably when we try to solve a problem this complex, we get it wrong. That's one of the principles that we follow in our design work, is that we assume our first attempts are wrong, and that we call them not really solutions, we call them learning experiences. They're prototypes. And so the only way to find out what's really happening is you have to try it out. But the problem is, you can't try out building new paths and see whether they work. That's kind of expensive and time consuming. So how can you try out things cheaply, quickly? And there are ways. We can do what's called rapid prototyping. One simple way, not very effective, is you draw a picture of what you're trying to do and you show it to people and try to see if it works. But what you really want is to get people doing the task. You want people to assume they just arrived at the trolley and now where are they going? And by the way, when you arrive at the trolley, the first building on your right is going to be called the Design and Innovation Building. It doesn't exist yet, but it will be by the time the trolley is here. And on the bottom floor, we'll have a store and a restaurant. So we're assuming many people may want to stop there. And then they go off to campus. And so put yourself in thinking about what that's like. How could you test it? Well, we could build, you could imagine people, you ask a person to imagine arriving at the trolley and going to the first appointment, and what do they do all along the way, and what are they carrying? So the more they can imagine it and play act it, the more realistic their answers. We could also start, if you wanted to have a rest spot, we could build one out of paper, cardboard, plywood, foam particles. You get foam, you could build something in a matter of an hour. And it's surprising how many things you can build out of cardboard that actually show you the shape and size, and people can think about it, try it out. So building prototypes is valuable. And some of the solutions don't have to be physical products. They might be a new way, a new procedure of, say, waiting in line. If you're rushed, and yet you want to get a cup, you want to eat something. How could you do that quickly so that you could eat it along the way? And so are there ways that maybe, I don't know, there could be a fast food service where there's one place where you order and you quickly go over and pick up what you want? Or maybe there's an app in which you can order the stuff beforehand and then you can pick it up and take off. And then what will you do with the garbage along the way? So will there be garbage places to throw? That's what we want you to think about and test and try it out. So, yeah, let me just give you another example of how we do things. Someday there's going to be completely automatic cars, and we actually hope to have some running on campus in the next year or so. And we want to test how people interact with cars that don't have drivers. And so we are doing that. We are driving cars around the campus that don't have drivers, or that don't look like they have drivers. So how do we do that? Because we're not ready to build a completely automated car yet and let it loose on this campus where it might be dangerous. So what we do is we fake it. So, one second. We went to the upholstery store. And we bought the same upholstery that is used to cover the seats of our car. And what we do is we have somebody wear it. And so here I am sitting in the car. See, my hands come out the bottom where you can't see it from outside, and that's how I steer. And I can see you because I can look right through the mesh. And when I sit in the car, you cannot see me. Only if you look carefully, you can see that the driver's seat is slightly thicker than the passenger seat. But so far, nobody has ever noticed. In fact, when I look, I can't even tell, even though I know that it's, because it's not an easy thing to tell. But see, this is a quick way of testing automated vehicles without having an automated vehicle. And so, you know, you can be clever too. Okay. That's basically the end of what I want to say, except I want to emphasize that use your creativity. This is a difficult problem. It has many different facets. Some of it may be to design a new way of moving around or a new procedure. Some of it may be a service that we offer. Some of it might be a physical device. Some of it may be various apps on your phone to help you know or schedule something in advance or do an order. We don't care what you do. But the first thing is you should not think about the technology you're going to use. Think about the problems that you see. Think about how you might approach solving them, and then use the most appropriate technology. And I want to remind you about the word technology. This is technology. Clothes are technology. The most powerful technology ever invented is language and writing. And so lots of people tend to think technology is this new stuff that we have trouble understanding. No, it's anything that people have ever built that helps people get along with their lives. So be flexible. Any questions? Any discussion?
Was number 4 the prototyping? Was the fourth?
Yeah, fourth is the first principle is focus on the people. Second is solve the right problem. The third is it's a system. And the fourth is test it. Prototype. We believe in building, observing, and then rethinking and doing a new prototype, a new modification. By the way, that order isn't necessary. There's been sometimes success in building something first, deliberately designed to be thrown away. You know it's not right, but you build something and you place it out there, and by watching how people interact, you learn a tremendous amount, and then you can go back. The other thing is we don't ask people as much as we observe them, because we don't trust what people tell us. Mainly, you filled out questionnaires and answered questions. Do you trust your answers? Not really. And we often don't know why we do what we do. The standard story I give is you may have carefully done some research on a new phone or a new car or a new backpack or whatever, decided just what you wanted to buy, and you went to the store and you ended up with something else. We can't always predict our behavior or even understand it, because a lot of it is subconscious. So those are the 4 things. Was that a question or just nodding your head? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Don.